Gambling has been a serious problem in the United States for decades now. There are over 5 million Americans that are reported to have a severe gambling addiction. And it's well documented that the majority of those Americans that are at high risk of a gambling addiction or have a gambling addiction are usually males from the ages of 18 to 34. And what's one of the most common hobbies of males ages 18 to 34? Sports. So it should come to no one's surprise that ever since sports gambling got legalized in 2018, it has been a rising issue in America. You see, in May of 2018, the Supreme Court decided to allow each individual U.S. state the option to legalize sports gambling. This ruling overturned the Professional Amateur Sports Protection Act of 1992, which while in place had made it effectively illegal to bet anywhere except for Nevada. As of 2025, there are 38 states that have legalized online sports gambling, and Americans have swung right back into the practice of sports betting. Over $10 million were bet on last year's Super Bowl, which is a 35% increase of the year prior, and there are over 120 billion, yes, you heard that right, 120 billion real American dollars bet on sports props. A number that just seems to keep growing year after year with no signs of stopping. This ridiculous flow of money has actually been seen as a success for the 38 states that have legalized sports betting and an encouragement for the remainder states to do so as well. Since a report in 2023 shows that these states have brought in over $2.5 billion of tax revenue due to sports betting being legalized. And once again, that number is only increasing. So obviously it's a big market with a lot of money being poured into it and with a history of severe gambling addictions. But what makes sports betting different from just gambling in general? Well, it comes down to the fact that in today's age, this generation grew up on the knowledge that gambling is not only addictive, but is luck-based. Most people my age understand that when they go to a slot machine or when they go to a blackjack table, the odds are against them. The house always wins. That is ingrained in our brains since a little kid. Don't gamble, don't do this, don't do that. And it's kind of worked. Reports have shown that people from 21 to 30 have a lower chance of spending money at casinos compared to previous generations. But what this generation believes they understand more than they should is that of sports. Because when it comes to sports betting, it doesn't feel like you should always lose. It doesn't feel like the house is rigged against you. It feels like if you have more knowledge than the other person, you should make money. It doesn't really even feel like gambling at the end of the day. It feels like you as a sports fan know so much about how every player plays, how every team functions, how every matchup goes, that you're bound to make money over time by betting on your knowledge. And the sports books know this. So that's why they've made it as accessible as ever to start betting. And that's what people have started to do. But how people bet, how much people bet, and why people bet comes down to how they're introduced to sports betting. And to be introduced to such a big market like this with so much money flowing in, advertisements is going to be the priority of companies. So how do people advertise sports betting? Advertisements have been shown to be insanely effective. There is a direct correlation between watching one advertisement of sports betting and then your likelihood of betting on a sport going up. That direct correlation is serious, especially when you consider the fact that no one who consumes sports media is just seeing one advertisement. A study in 2019 found that the average viewer of a World Cup broadcast saw 2.14 advertisements per view. That's 2.14. So that just doubles their chances of then betting on sports. But that's not all they see, because sports viewers are now exposed to unlimited forms of advertisements, not only through the broadcast they might be watching, but through the article they might be reading. There could be an advertisement there. Through the Twitter they might be scrolling. There are dozens, if not hundreds of advertisements there. Through Instagram, through TikTok, anywhere they consume sports, there will be advertisements. And it's because they're effective. But what makes them so effective? First, I looked into what are the themes of these advertisements. Then I got into the specifics. The three major themes that were found are humor, winning, and ritual. Humor is found in sports betting advertisements because it reduces the tension. You know, a viewer is tense about betting, about losing money, about doing something that is seen as wrong. But with some humor, it reduces that feeling of risk. Winning, well, that's obvious. They want to make it seem like you're able to win. These advertisements directly tell viewers, hey, you, sports fan, you know this. You know that your favorite player always gets 100 yards per game. Why not bet on it? Right? Don't you know so much? Why not put your money where your mouth's at? And then they display regular people on their advertisements winning a whole bunch of money. The third common theme in most sports advertisements is ritual. These companies realize that to make advertising a norm, they have to make it seem like every sports fan bets, that it's just no big deal. That if you're a fan of watching a certain sport, you also must be a fan of betting. And so the advertisements just make it seem like it's the ritual part of the game. You know, just like how they make it a ritual to eat a certain type of nachos in other advertisements, or how it's a ritual to cheer a certain way. It's now trying to be ingrained in us that it's a sports ritual to bet on your team, to bet on your players. So those themes have all been very effective in creating advertisements that connect with the target audience. But what are some new ways that these sports books are partnering with the leagues in general to advertise their gambling? Well, the biggest thing that you see nowadays that has become an absolute norm is that on professional broadcasts where there are professional announcers that you would assume would just be talking about the game, about the players, about the situation, about the playoffs, about potential matchups, about a dozen different things that all relate to the game, now also
to be behind you.
Fish, you hit that parlay, right?
I did hit the parlay. First one this season.
mid-game, mid-play will advertise the fact you can bet on the game you're watching. They will partner with DraftKings. They will partner with FanDuel. And after Anthony Edwards hits a slam dunk, they will say, hey, did you know you can bet on that? Right? Mid-broadcast, they're letting you know that they support those who bet on it. And that leads to the second biggest new way of betting, which is called in-game betting. Previously in sports betting, before 1992, when it was legalized, the only type of betting you would see is money line and spread betting. Two bets that you have to do before a game starts, and you can really only do once. Nowadays, there's 100 different ways to bet. When you open up a sports book and go to a certain match, there are over 100 different betting props. Not only that, it doesn't stop when the game starts. Right? Take that example I just said. An announcer's talking about Anthony Edwards, who just does a great play, right? That's going to change the trajectory of the game. The announcer knows that. You know that as a sports fan. So they tell you, hey, we partner with FanDuel. Go to FanDuel right now. It's going to let you bet on the spread of this individual quarter that now looks like to have a different outcome because of this individual play. Go put some money on it. They literally tell you to do that. So we've gone from maybe betting once or twice before a game, to having 100 different options of how to bet before a game, to then being able to still bet during the game, in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, on 1,000 different things. The betting never stops. If the betting never stops, if advertisements keep flowing in, if AI and data keep honing in on exactly how to target us who are susceptible to believing they know more than the sports books, if sports betting becomes a ritual of a sports fan, is part of the culture of what it means to be a supporter of a team, if players themselves start promoting their own bets, where's the line? Is there a line? Will there be a line? The government, the states, they're bringing in the money. They don't care. The companies, they're bringing in even more money. Billions of dollars are being made on those sides. The losers are us, who think we can be the winners. We're losing while thinking we can win. And there's no line in the distance. And advertisements are going to keep getting more and more accurate. We must become aware of this. We must see through the thematical execution of advertisements. We don't have to stop watching sports. We don't have to stop being fans of sports. We just can't let that influence how we spend our money, how we spend our time outside of that. We have to draw the line. And I think it's pretty clear the line's already been crossed.